This is IB Math Prep. In the description below, find a link to my live sessions where I'm preparing you to the IB Math Paper 1, which is in 26 days, and Paper 2, which is on May 2nd, and Paper 3, which is on May 6th. Okay, welcome to IB Math Prep. In this video, I'm going to break down this exercise. I have only briefly glanced at it, so I'm going to now just start solving from scratch. It is a typical AA high-level paper 1 question, but I hope that this video can be useful for anybody studying also standard level and even AI mathematics, because I try always to go deep into the concepts. Okay, so let's see what is required. Consider a function like this, okay, some linear combination of the sine function, okay, and then another function which also has a sine function where x is a real number and q is positive. Okay, the graph of g is obtained by two transformations of the graph f. Describe these two transformations. Okay, so the first part of this exercise, part A, is to realize that the second function can be obtained from the first function by substituting in x minus 3 pi over 2 in place of x, which is shifting the curve in the horizontal direction, and then adding q, which is shifting the graph in the vertical direction. So whenever we add a constant to a function, it shifts in the vertical direction. When we add a constant to the variable of the function, then it shifts it in the horizontal direction. If you want to know more about that, comment below and I'm going to make a video about this, but at this moment I'm not going to get stuck at that. So these two transformations basically are, first one is x becomes x minus 3 pi over 2, and the second transformation is that we add q. So the way we could describe this is that g of x is f of u plus q, where u is x minus 3 pi divided by 2, so it's substitution and adding a constant. I think I would answer this question this way. Okay, and then part B is, okay, so they say that the y-intercept of the graph of g is at 0 r. Okay, y-intercept, meaning the point where the graph intersects the y-axis. And B is that given that g is greater or equal to 7, find the smallest value of r. Does that mean that g is greater or equal to 7 for all x? It doesn't say that, but it doesn't say anything about what this x is. So the way I would interpret this is that this means that this g is greater or equal to 7, is at least 7 for all x. Now, if this was my student writing this, I would tell them that they should specify that this actually is supposed to hold for all x, but I guess that's not the common practice in IB. All right, let's see. So y-intercept is at R means that g of 0 is R. So let's see what we can say about this R given this. So indeed this means, so let's see what happens when I plug in 0 into G. Simply 4 sine of minus 3 pi over 2 plus 2.5 plus Q, and this is equal to R. Okay, so we have an equation like this. We have an equation like this. And the question is, what is the smallest value of R if G is at least 7? Okay, well, G depends still on Q. And so in order to find out what is the smallest value of this function, so we want it to be at least 7, we need to find, well, this function is periodic. Sine is between the full function, the full G, okay, let's analyze this. This one is always between 1 and minus 1. So when we multiply it by 4, is between minus 4 and 4. When we add 2.5 to it, it becomes minus 2.5, between minus 2.5 and 6.5. And we still add Q to it, then we get that, I'm sorry, I'm just gonna write it here. We get that G is between minus 2.5 plus Q and 6.5 plus Q. So this is the lower bound for G. And when we're saying that this has to be greater or equal to minus 7, no, 7, I'm sorry, 7, yeah, 7, then this means by simply adding this 2.5 on both sides that Q must be greater or equal to 9.5. Okay, so if I plug it in here, I should get an inequality for R, because if Q is greater or equal than something, then R is greater or equal than this entire thing. So basically, if I put the smallest possible value in place of Q now, which is 9.5, then I get that R must be at least that. So then the smallest value of R is going to be whatever comes out from this expression, and it's not difficult to find out because this angle 3 pi divided by 2 Okay, let's look at that angle. Let me remove everything on the right hand side since we got that far. Okay, so look. The sine function in the unit, this is the unit circle, and the sine always has the same value for angles and their negative versions. So the sine for this is the same as sine of just 3 pi per 2. And what is 3 pi per 2? Oh, that's actually this point here, right? Because this is a full pi, is from here. Full pi goes from here to here, and so 3/2 of pi goes here, so we're there. So the sine of that point is -1. That's as easy as that. Don't need a calculator. It's -1, so the expression becomes -4 plus 2.5 plus 9.5, which is 8. That's it. So R is at least 8. If you have any questions or something was unclear or I made a mistake, please give your comments below in the comments. Also subscribe to my TikTok and subscribe to my YouTube channel, and also check out my live sessions where I'm preparing people to the IB exams. You can join them, it's very cheap, so see you there. Okay, so in this video I made a mistake, and I'm going to now spoil you this mistake. But in the future, if you find a mistake in one of my videos and you spot it before I make another video where I explain the mistake, so meaning you spot it before me, or you spot it before any other viewers, then you get a free access to one of my live sessions. So I'll give you a promotion code, and you'll have a free access to one of my live sessions. Making mistakes is an integral part of doing mathematics, and it's kind of important to know how to react to it. And this is why I didn't make a new video, even though I noticed this before I published this. But I decided I will analyze what happened, and it's interesting that in the end of this video, I actually say that maybe I made a mistake or something. Like I said, if I made a mistake, please comment. Which means I don't usually say that in the other videos. So that means that I kind of had a feeling that something went wrong, but I didn't know what it was. Only after recording the video and watching it again, I saw that there was a mistake. But the fact that I had that feeling, one has to pay really close attention, because this feeling, it comes with practice. When you do a lot of these exercises, when you do a lot of mathematics, you start developing this kind of sensitivity, like, oh, something is wrong. And usually it's not even because you see anything wrong. You might see something wrong, you might see that something is not matching, but more importantly, you know that you did not think it through. So I will analyze almost like a psychologist now this situation, what happened to me, together, and I hope we all will learn a lot from this situation. So I will be using now a red marker because now I'm like the teacher who is correcting mistakes for this video. Okay, so let's see. First of all, I am now putting up the boundaries for this sine. So the sine here is between -1 and 1. Okay, so that's fine. Then 4 times that, then obviously is between -4 and 4. And you can see, the reason I made a mistake is because I'm very sloppy here, right? So I'm not writing out the details like I should. I'm making this kind of hasty notation, which you are not supposed to do in a proper exam answer, this kind of notation you should only do for yourself on a piece of paper, and then when you actually do the proper solution, you should write it out more properly. I know there's a time pressure in IB papers, so it's not always feasible to write all the details, but that's when the mistakes happen, is when you're not me, and I'm not doing the stuff explicitly. Okay, well, let's look what is happening here. When we add 2.5 to it, it becomes minus 2.5. Okay, here. So I am writing this. So, okay, let's continue watching what is happening, in fact. Between minus 2.5 and 6.5. And we still add q to it, then we get that. So I'm claiming now that since this is between minus 4 and 4, then when we add 2.5, it's going to be between minus 2.5 and 6.5. And that's bonkers, because minus 4 plus 2.5 is minus 1.5. So the reason this mistake happened is because I'm doing several things at the same time. I am recording the video, I'm thinking about all my windows which are open at the same time, and I am explaining. So my thoughts are in some explanation mode, and at the same time I'm performing a calculation, arithmetic calculation in my head. Now this arithmetic calculation didn't get enough brain power, and it went wrong. So it went wrong, and I am probably here kind of thinking, like part of my brain is thinking, okay, this is so simple that I'm probably not going to make a mistake in this, so I don't have to stop. And I don't want to stop when I'm recording, because I think, I don't want to lose the flow of the video. So there's so many things going on in my mind, which is bad, because that's why I made a mistake. So if you want to avoid making mistakes, so one thing you can learn from this video is that don't think that if some part of your solution is simple, that means that you can just skim over it and just do it hastily in your head and then go on. I've seen so many times people make mistakes just because they think, oh, +5, I know how to do +5. I don't have to write it as a separate step in my solution. But please, in the IB paper, it's going to take you 2 more seconds to write out this +5 step or +2.5 step, and you will avoid mistakes. Hopefully we'll have time to go through the solutions once again, but the time pressure is pretty bad, so shouldn't count on that at least. Okay, so and this mistake obviously is not a bad mathematical mistake. Just thinking what will happen to some of you if you make a mistake like this. Sorry, I'm just gonna write it here. Basically we see, if I just the smallest possible, we see that this mistake influences the final answer in this case, right? So if I made a mistake on this side, that would not have influenced the solution. But since I made a mistake on this side, it actually influences the solution. Value in place of q now, which is 9.5. Then I get that r must be at least that. Right, so now because I said because it's a -2.5, so now I have 9.5. I'm supposed to have 8.5 instead. So if I do the corrections, should be, sorry. Okay, instead of this should be 1.5. God. Then further down the line here has to be 8.5. This should be 1.5. And therefore this should be 8.5 greater than R. Let me just try to put it reasonably here. Sorry. My toolbox is not ideal. So then the smallest value of R is going to be whatever comes out from this expression. And it's not difficult to find out because yeah, so then finally this has to be 8.5. And so -4 plus 2.5. That 2.5 is correct because that's from the exercise. Plus 8.5 will be okay. So let's not make the same mistake. Let's not make this hastily. So let's do everything one step at a time. So this is 11. 8.5 plus 2.5 is 11 because 8 plus 2 is 10 and half is one more, and then 11 minus 4 is 7. So yeah, so this should be 7. Okay, that's it. I hope you'll. I mean, I learned something. It's a reminder for me. Don't rush. Don't try to do too many things at the same time in your head. Yeah, and so I'm gonna add one more thing is that this mistake is not going to be many minus points. So if you make a mistake like this, you get 1 minus point for calculating this wrong, but you will not get an additional minus point for having the final solution wrong, because the teacher, the ones who are checking the exercises, they're supposed to understand that all the rest of the mistakes are only because of this one mistake. So they will not give you minus points for this and for this and for this and for the final answer. They will only give you a minus point for this one miscalculation, and then they will assume that if you did everything else correctly, so you calculate, like given the mistake, you calculated everything else correctly, then they will not punish you for that. It might be that there is in some exercises just like an extra minus point for having the final solution wrong, but as far as I have read some those instructions for those who grade, I think it's only 1 minus point for this kind of mistake. So you're not going to get a second minus point for having the solution wrong.